Okay, so we are going to chat today to Gavin Glover, who's here. He is going to be drawing a portrait of Max over here, and Max is just sitting there patiently waiting for us to get started. But Gavin is a friend of mine and an All the Young Nudes regular. He is a maker of puppets and an artist and a creator and a sculptor, and he works a lot with clay and loves to do life drawing because it really helps his practice. So I know there's a lot of you out there who also work in, I don't know, film and media and theatre, and even there's so many lines of work where life drawing can be useful. So I thought it'd be nice to see a little bit of kind of what Gavin's thinking about when he's drawing, and specifically with a portrait, how he goes about it. So yeah, Gavin, if you want to just introduce yourself.
Sure, yeah. Hello, welcome. It's great to be back. I've not done this for a while, so I'm a little bit rusty, but yeah, I work in the theatre and I do quite a lot of making, as you said. But I think it's just nice to sort of sit and you know, look at someone, draw them without any, without worrying about it. Do you know what I mean? So I enjoy the fact that it's a casual session where I can just sort of like relax. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. It's nice to work without any deadlines or time constraints or anything like that. So yeah, so it was fun though. It's really interesting to work on faces as opposed to bodies. It's the first time I've done a portrait for a very long time. Different different constraints. Often used to avoid faces totally because they were just, they always look rubbish when I used to draw them on a life drawing figure. Often the eyes are in the wrong place or the ears was wrong or whatever. So I would often ruin a picture by, putting a face in. So I would often just sort of smear it out or just not put it in at all. So actually seeing Max here in the
Yeah,
sunshine.
I never used to add the face, especially with life drawing when you only have a short time and you're focusing so much on the full body and form and the proportions, and then quite often you add the face at the end and it does just ruin the drawing. So I know that a lot of you out there, this will be intimidating to be jumping from life drawing into portraiture maybe without much experience. But Gavin's saying he's rusty, and when you see his drawing, I'm sure you will not be agreeing. But it'd be nice to
Definitely very
see
rusty.
what he's thinking about when he starts. And so I'm going to hit play on Gavin's video. And I'm going to ask you some questions because I find that blank page just at the very beginning, that's the most intimidating part. Kind of how do you start, and what how do you know what you're going to be creating? You only have 10 minutes, and do you have an idea in your head of the kind of the shape and the thing that you're what are you thinking about at the very beginning?
I mean, what I do with most things for drawing is just half close my eyes. A bit cliche, but half close your eyes and just look at what you're seeing, the form of it, the outline, the silhouette, and then you kind of fill in the blanks in a very sort of sketchy way. So obviously, I just go for the eyes and the mouth and the nostrils in this case. If it was a profile, then obviously it'd be different where the eyes are and stuff, because that seems to be the point that everyone refers to when you look at people. In normal life, you're looking at people that look at their eyes. So we're very familiar with that proportion. So it's very important to get that right. So the angle, whether it's horizontal, the distance between the eyes and the mouth, whether it's dead center or if it's just notice if the nostrils are higher than where the top of the lip is, for example. So you see with Max, I think because of the angle of his head, he's got his chin slightly out there. His nostrils are actually slightly higher off center. He's got quite a long mouth going on there. So there's quite a lot to go on, but it's getting those fractional proportions correct just at the beginning. And as you know, so I'm using a rubber. I'm using a
I was
rubber
going to
there.
say, doing a lot of rubbing out. Thought that
Yeah.
wasn't allowed.
Well, absolutely not. But I think it's kind of the art teacher's worst advice really is to not use a rubber. But I totally disagree. I mean, if you're a painter, you're going to paint over colors and you're going to like change forms and stuff like that. So I think with a pencil, it's totally allowed to use a rubber. And I think I certainly approach the sketching as a sketch, and it's just like you put a number of lines in, and if they're not quite right, you put another one on the side. It's really just getting a feel for it. And I've noticed as I'm drawing, I'm kind of actually using the pencil on it, kind of on its side. Often I'll kind of draw a line, then I'll twist it away. I actually noticed that when watching this video. I think because I work quite a lot of clay, sculpting heads and stuff. I kind of get my fingers and my thumb in, and I'm kind of twisting and pushing the clay around. And in a way, using that technique in a way, even though wasn't aware of it, of just kind of pushing, and like you say, like moving the form around. It's kind of how I work. So I never really work as if I'm writing something or signing my signature or something. I'll always try to hold the pencil like a tool, almost like a chisel, or almost like my thumb, I suppose.
I guess that's so important because you want to get away from your handwriting and the way that you hold a pencil. You want to be, you're doing something different with the tool. So if you're holding it like the way that you write, you'd be more inclined to be a bit more precious and think that's not neat, that doesn't
Yeah,
look the way it's supposed to look. But if you hold, it's quite often when we were in art school, they said hold the paintbrush at the very tip of the paintbrush, because it just completely loosens you up, and you don't think about it as writing. It's not a writing tool anymore.
yeah,
It's a
exactly.
way of making a shape on the page.
Yeah, it's a mark maker,
It's a
and
mark
it's
maker.
yeah, and also, I mean, obviously you can use it. You can use the point for certain details when you do have to get in and like put a bit of color in here or whatever. But I think when you're trying to create the thing, it's kind of an amorphous mass which you're trying to move around the page. And I think if you throw in a line here, it's not quite right, you can rub it out. I often use quite a soft pencil as well, so like sort of 7-8B.
Oh, is this a 7/8B for the whole drawing?
I think yeah, it is. It's 7 or 8. I seem to have just 7 or 8 Bs in my tin that I use. So they're quite, you can make really fine lines with them, and obviously you can kind of go really, really dark with them, just on
I
how.
also just wanted to say about your rubbings that because that was one thing in art school they told us, no rubbers, get it right. But I actually love the way that when you're rubbing things out, we can see the kind of shadow of the lines before, because it kind of helps inform the right shape, but it also gives him much more depth and character and a little bit of kind of life and movement. I guess it reminds me of like animated cell frame
Yeah,
animation as well. Like it's given him more life.
yeah.
Um,
I think also, like you notice on the top left there, there's I've rubbed it out almost completely to sort of relate to the highlight on his side of his head there. So obviously, using taking the line out completely, you're still aware of a line, a slight faint line going on under there. So
yeah, then the rubbed out mark really works well.
so now I've added a little bit of color into the lips there, just to sort of give it a little bit of a extra. And again, I've used the rubber.
The rubber is essential here.
My art teacher would be having a fit.
Having a fit.
Definitely a fail.
But it's very interesting how this is a short pose, it's only a 10-minute pose, but already we have the impression of his face on the page. I mean, it's very similar, but it's not photographic, it's not a true likeness, but it's an impression of him. Like you said, it's almost a caricature. And maybe it'd be useful for people to know how you kind of arrive at well, you mentioned it at the beginning, but at the beginning, do you know kind of the level of detail you're going to put in? Like, did you plan to put a little bit of color from the beginning?
I always throw a little bit of color in here and there just to lift it out slightly. Sometimes I attack it with a crayon, with like an oil pastel or a pastel. So they're quite colourful. This one is a bit more restrained, black and white. But again, when I'm working with color, I'll just throw a load in. It might not even hit the face. It might just be like a splodge here and splodge there.
Yeah.
But I think it's that kind of just being irreverent with it and just not worrying too much about it. I think, like you say, if you want to be a photographer, then just take a photo. And I guess because I'm a puppet maker, my work tends to be a bit more caricatured, so it may not be, you know, like a pure Rembrandt or something, but it's, you know, that's the way I work. So, you know, each to their own, really.
Yeah, but it's expressive and it's fun. So I feel like people, I mean, obviously Gavin has developed this style over some time, and this is the way that he draws, and it's informed by the other work that he does. But when you're starting out with a portrait, like when I was drawing this portrait, I don't really have a fixed drawing style, and it can be quite intimidating. You're thinking, how's mine going to look? But just, I think the key is to just be free and really go for it, because it's a short time. And in that short time, we've captured, well, I say we, Gavin has captured the essence of Max here. I mean, I love this mouth pointing down the way, which is exactly how his face is sitting, but you can still sense that there's the kind of smile. So, yeah, and then I love this, the scribbles for hair is brilliant. So don't be worried about drawing hair, just do a scribble and a rub.
You've noticed that I dropped his shoulder level as well a little bit. I think because I wanted to accentuate his kind of the head and the neck. So I, you know, just take artistic license to sort of just push things around as you see fit, you know.
Yeah, I like the idea that if something interests you about the head or the neck or the shape or just the overall composition, you can accentuate something to make your overall drawing look nice, and you do have creative license to do that. There's no rules.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, I think you can get a bit too bogged down in trying to find absolute detail when actually, you know, because I find if I work for more than 10 minutes, I actually start ruining it. It loses some spontaneity. There he is, finished.
I think he looks absolutely wonderful. I'm still sitting quietly and patiently, hoping that we'll stop talking. So the portrait will be available on the website, and it'd be really nice to see how some of you guys approach drawing having seen this video. And don't be afraid to use a bit of color. Don't be afraid to maybe use a completely different material to what you would normally use. And I think for me, the key thing that I took from Gavin's teachings is at the very beginning to really get a sense of the face and the mood and the overall kind of, oh, there he is in the original position. Yeah, to spend a good amount of time at the beginning just looking at the face and scanning it and making clear in your head what you want to try and achieve with the drawing, because it's a little bit different to life drawing where you want to get the proportions right. You go in and you measure straight away. So it'll be nice to see how you guys tackle this one.
Indeed, can't wait. Gallery, let's see.
Let's see. Thank you so much, Gavin.
My pleasure.
Catch you next time on.
Indeed.